The Jewish king Solomon invited Hiram, prince of the city of Tyre, who was a great builder, to build him a magnificent temple in Jerusalem. Hiram came to Dalmatia and redrew the temple of god Ilia and built such a temple in Jerusalem. According to Arab writers, from then on Jerusalem was called Ilia until the 8th century. God Ilia was widely accepted and respected by various people, so Christians could not displace him. Instead, they proclaimed him a prophet and left him to be celebrated as a thunderer on August 2nd. And how could they squeeze him out when Christ on a cross addresses him? Ilia, Ilia, zabveli animia. Ava Justin says about Ilia: approaching the exposition of the life of Saint Ilia, the divine seer and a famous zealot for God, the perverter of lawless kings, the punisher, the wonderful miracle worker from whom the elements obeyed, whom heaven listened to, the great pleaser of God, who so far resides in a body and who will come to earth before the second coming of Christ. For the sake of clearer proof of his zeal with which he worshipped for the Lord God, we will briefly outline the events that took place before him. When the prophet came to the gate of the city of Sarepta, he saw a widow with 2 frames of wood, because she has no more flour than a handful in a bowl and some oil in a jar. Hungry, the prophet asks her for a piece of bread. The widow tells him about her extreme misery in which she is found lately, and told him that she wanted to cook a meal for her son and herself for the last time from the flour she had, so that they wouldn't die of hunger. And this could have shaken a man of God, and he could have pitied all the poor widows, but his great zeal for God dominates everything, and he does not pay attention to the decay of matter, wanting to glorify the Creator and show his omnipotent power to his universe. Having the grace of miracle working from God according to the measure of his faith, the prophet made sure that the flour and oil did not disappear in the widow's house, and he is fed by the widow until the hunger ceases. The prophet resurrected the widow's dead son by praying and blowing on him 3 times, which is what the Holy Scriptures say. There is a tradition about this widow's resurrected son, that his name was Jonah, and that in his mature years he was worthy of the prophetic gift and was swallowed in a sea by a whale, and after 3 days emerged from a whale. He became a prototype of the 3-day resurrection of Christ, as it is said in a detail of his prophetic book and in his biography. What Ava Justin writes in The Life of the Saints clearly shows that Christians considered Elia to not only be a prophet but also a divinity. Other gods from Serbian Divonia. Serbian Divonia is the oldest and most complete that exists. All other Divonias are more or less copy of that, with a change of names of certain gods, or even without a change of names. This especially applies to the Greeks, Romans and Aryans in India. The first deities among the Serbs were created in the Nubian region at the time of Lepenski Vir, then perfected at the time of Vinča and other finds. The sun is the center of the beliefs of the ancient Serbs as a source of life. Ilia is connected to the sun, to the sky and to the thunderbolts. Various beliefs and deities have arisen from the role of the sun. The Greeks named their people Ilios, Helios after Ilia and after him Helens. Serbs worshipped individual deities that had special purposes and named certain classes after these deities as patrons. With the development of agriculture, the deity embodied in bull gained an important role, because the bull was the main actor in agriculture and was assigned the role of fertility called Bak. Bak personifies fertility and nature. His religious rites were accompanied by merriment, song and dance. The teen joys gave birth to choral singing and celebration with the use of wine, so wine is associated with Bak. In a time of decadence, it was a deity of drinking in celebration of bacchanalias. Bak was most widespread deity in the ancient world. His central temple was located in the city of Nisa, modern Niš. The Greeks, like the Serbs, called him Bakos or Dionysus, the div from Nisa. The leader of the first Aryan expedition and the conqueror of the known world at that time, Nino Belov, was called Bak. It was supposed to mean that he represents Bak or is even his embodiment. Bak is especially celebrated in Minoan Crete, where there are works of art dedicated to him, and the appearance of the Serbian national cap, the Shajkača, was created from Bak's symbol from Crete. In Persia, Bak was celebrated under the name Mithras. Bak is especially respected with the farmers because bull was the agricultural animal that pulled carts and plugs. He improved agriculture. Minoan Crete was all about the symbol of Bak, and from these symbols the Serbian national cap Shajkača was made. Gaia. This goddess embodies the earth and is considered a great mother goddess. There are more names. Gaia means the one who grows everything, or the one from which everything grows. Rasta, Reasa, Rea. The Greeks changed the Serbian name Gaia to Gea. The Romans used the name Gaia or Reasa, Rea. Among the Serbs, certain professions were marked with the name of a patron deity, so Rasta, Reasa became the patron saint of farmers. After her, the agricultural class is called Rasi, Reasi, Rašani. Svarog. Svarog is the god of the sky, because the firmament was considered a svar, and as a deity he had several roles. One of his roles is the god of heaven, and he reigns over the flower fields on Mount Mera, Meraya. The roles of individual gods were often understood according to the place of his sanctuary. Thus, if a god had a temple in a certain place, in a certain area, the people from that region gave him a false role as the main deity. Svetovid. Svetovid is one of the most important gods, whose sanctuary was located on the island of Ruino in the famous Arkona. He is represented as a god with 4 faces who sees everything at the same time. One of the temples of the god Svetovid was located at the mouth of the river Neretva, and his cult was highly respected by Neretvian tribe. Because of the Svetovid's temple, the Neretvians were the last to accept Christianity among the Serbs. They did so by the agreement to be baptized in Svetovid's temple and for Christians to accept Svetovid as the saint. He is celebrated today on Vidovdan. Apollo. Apollo is better known by this name. He is the god of Pelon tribe and was called Pelon. It is a sun deity to whom the temple in Delphi was dedicated. His country of origin is today Serbia. Apollo had a role of a doctor and cleansed the world of diseases. In fact, he washed the world of diseases. His role gives rise to a new deity that is called Perun. Perun. Perun had sanctuaries in several places, the most famous of which was in Kiev. He was highly praised by the people. They considered him as one of the main gods. Since all the main gods were given the characteristic of a thunderer, that's how Perun became a thunderer. Serbon. The role of the god Serbon appears from the time of the appearance of wars and rulers. He is the protector of rulers, warriors, order and law. His famous symbol is the lion strangler. He is represented as the mighty giant who strangles a lion with bare hands. The lion is represented here as the king of animal world, the king of beasts, violence and lawlessness. The strangulation of a lion symbolizes the introduction of law and order, the victory over the wild. His weapon is a double-edged axe, labrisa. He is announced to be predestined through his messengers, namely the 2 eagles. The 2 eagles had chirped on the roof of the palace in Pella when Alexander the Great was born. The largest known sanctuary of the god Serbon was in Assyria, where he was celebrated under the name Asur. The leader of the Second Aryan Campaign, Serbo-Makiridov, was called god Serbon, as was Ninobelov god Buck.